It's Monday, and you know what that means. It's IndyCar night on iRacing. Hello again, everyone. I am Gary Gossett with a very, very bad voice, and welcome back to RACEWEAR's coverage of Round 11 of Season 3 of 2022 of the 4D RACEWEAR Monday Night Indy Fix Top Split, coming to you from the Legacy Texas Motor Speedway, or I like to say, the proper version of the Texas Motor Speedway. As always, joining me in the booth for expert analysis from the NHR Esports team and the Lionheart IndyCar Series, and it's probably going to do a lot of the talking tonight, is Stephen Larkamp. So, Stephen, we are 11 points to separate the top two in the Division I Points Championship tonight. Looks like only one of them have entered tonight's event. That's Mark Murphy. But if you put yourself into the leader's shoes, how would you approach tonight's race?
Well, and of course, in the position of Adriano Pinero, who of course leads the championship by 11 points, he has not shown up tonight, oddly enough for him. But very much this week is going to be crucial if he is going to maintain that lead going into the season finale. Of course, we've had all 8 weeks counted so far, and if this week does net more points for at least one of these races over one of the weeks that you had before, yeah, that week will count over one of the old ones. So it's very much a game of how big is the strength of field going to be, and is it really going to be worth risking risking a potential drop week? And I'm certain that Pinero is going to try at some point this week to try and make up for lost time here. But missing out on a big SOF like this is going to be very crucial to that championship hunt. And as you mentioned before, the other protagonist in that one is Mark Murphy, driving the number 2 machine tonight. He has got a lot to work for as well. It's a pretty high SOF here tonight. He's got a lot of potential to make up a lot of time, and he's got a mountain to climb tonight. It's going to be a packed competition, but we know how smart Murphy is, and he can definitely make something happen.
Yeah, it's a 40-45 strength of field, so it's a pretty big one.
Oh, definitely. It's going to be... there's a lot of hot talent out there tonight. Of course, Pinero is not among them, sadly. He would probably be number 1 once more. But looking at top time so far, Dakota DeMate already up on top of the board with a 42.072. And we're seeing a lot of big names here. And I think as we're seeing Nacho LaRosa making his return this season, had an appearance at Michigan earlier this season. And looking at everyone we've got here tonight, I think this race is going to be very, very competitive. Texas Motor Speedway, the legacy or proper version, perhaps, of TMS. This track is, in my opinion, it's a better track to drive on than the new one. Though I can see the appeal of the new one, at least in iRacing, and at least in sim racing land. In real life, it's a bit more contentious. And contentious, I'll put it that way. Matt Mercer, I will note, is actually saying in the chat that more so than the track temperature here, which is actually lower than I thought it would be. It's 110 degrees. We're starting around noon. But what Mercer is worried about is a potential wreck fest with a lot of big names out here tonight trying to fight for whatever position they can. It's going to lead to some aggressive moves, perhaps, and a lot of hurt feelings. And over 75 laps, there's a lot of races that can be made or broken.
Minute and a half here left in qualifying. the IndyCar track records you need to know here at Texas. There are 2 of them. People like 2. Well, yeah, CART did make a stop here, but the race never went through, but they did qualify. That would be your unofficial IndyCar record here. That's 200.
Good reason. For a very good reason.
233.447 miles per hour set by Kenny Breck when he was driving, and when you jump from IRL to CART in April 2001, and that was for the canceled Firestone Firehawk 600 race. The IndyCar, or the IRL track record, is 225.979 set by Billy Boat back in October of 98. So some of these track records are a bit old. But as you see right now on the provisional poll, Dakota DeMaid, 218.373, really nowhere close to those old marks back, set at the beginning of the millennium.
Very much so. Of course, you saw at the turn of the new millennium, you saw, of course, Sam Hornish Jr. might be one of the best examples. You saw really close pack racing here. Yep. And here, though, with a lot more aero to work with, it would seem that these guys are a lot more technically dependent. They're not exactly working with the draft. They are working with it, of course, but not to the extent that they were in the early aughts. So I would imagine that these guys are not only going to have to be aggressive early on to gain positions whenever they can, but they're also going to have to be careful of tires, especially since the track is going to be liable to get even hotter. It's already up to 111. It's going to get hotter and hotter as this race goes.
The career wins leaders here at Texas are Scott Dixon with 5, Helio Castroneves with 4, Sam Hornish with 3, and Scott Goodyear, Scott Sharp, Will Power, and Joseph Newgarden with 2. So we're getting ready to grid up, and let's look at tonight's starting lineup here at Texas Motor Speedway.
And on the pole, Dakota DeMaid. What a great run by our RACEWEAR buddy in the number 6. He will be starting alongside the 21 of Pedro Gomez. Another strong qualifying run for him. RACEWEAR's cars on rows 1 and 2 with Matt Houston starting P3 in the number 14. Well done to Matt, the boss man, alongside the 13 of John Silva in P4. Tyler Russell in the number 12 will start 5th. And then alongside him on row 3 will be Justin Miller in the number 24. Pablo Diaz-Francis, another driver who's been on a roll as of lately. He will start 7th in the number 1 alongside the 8 of Nacho La Rosa. Row 5 will be Sean Dunham in the number 7, and one of the championship protagonists we mentioned before, Mark Murphy in the number 2. Trey Shadid will start 11th in the number 3, and Guillermo Parkel will be his roommate alongside him on row number 6. In the number 15, Adriano Forporti's number 9 will be 13th, and 14th will be Alexandre Gon's number 4. Row 8 will be Stephen Lee in the number 11, and the 22 of Rafael David. And 9th row will be Cesar Cabral's number 19 and Matt Mercer's number 16. Rounding out your top 20 will be Frank Irwin Jr.'s number 23 and Brian Spots in the 17. Seb Alexander's number 20 will be 21st. Alongside him will be the 10 of Hayato Matsuda. Row number 12. Geez, I almost lost track there. Row number 12. Sorry about that. Will be Logan Powers in the number 5, alongside the 18 of Alan Morea. And those are the last 2 drivers to post qualifying times. And in the final row of the grid, Jeff Murray's number 25 and DL Lemon in the 26. As we set off behind the pace car, the track has already gotten a little bit hotter still. It's 112 right now. And from what Tyler Russell is suggesting in chat, he is expecting it to be a pack race at least early on. But I think as that run's going to go on, you're going to have to be worrying about tire wear about lap 30, maybe even a little bit before.
Yeah, I agree. This is going to be a pack race very early on, half the stint, and then these tires go away. It's going to be hang on to your life.
And it's going to be hanging on for dear life, I would imagine, especially later, like you said, as we head into turn number 3. Dakota DeMaid, not a position he's been used to seeing here on the Monday night broadcast, but it's great to see him up there. We'll see what he can pull, and there's a bunch of fast guys starting behind him. A big turnout here tonight. A lot of heavy hitters.
26 cars, full field.
All 26 of them getting ready. Pace car peels off, all on Dakota DeMaid to lead them to the green. Waiting on it, and now he gets his foot down. Green flag flies. We are racing in Texas.
Good jump by Dakota.
Great jump by Dakota DeMay. Gomez in trouble there. Matt Houston already looking to the low side there. And I believe that, oh yeah, Gomez does hold on to the position, and now he's starting to close in once more on Dakota DeMay as they head into turn 3 for the first time. Houston way up high. Caution's out. Trying to pick out who it is. Probably someone in the back of the field. I see Logan Powers on pit road. It's like a single car incident involving Logan Powers in the number 5, who started 23rd. Rough qualifying run, just went from bad to worse, it would seem.
Here we go. Just loose off of 2.
And just single car. Little spin there off of turn number 2, and sadly for Logan Powers, that is night done and dusted. Only 2 corners in. As we line up behind the pace car once more, Dakota DeMay sitting there comfortable right now for the time being. I'm sure we would have wanted to get some more laps in.
And yeah, he was just, I'm sure he and his teammate just kind of want to settle in and kind of pull away from everybody, because now they got teammate cars 1 and 2 here on the start of this event here.
Well done to Matt Houston getting up to P2, and Pedro Gomez had a terrible start, I should say. He went from 2nd down to 6th.
Yeah, I'm not sure if he was in the wrong
start
gear or something, but yeah, he lost 4 spots.
Yeah, that was definitely a rough start there. He was caught napping on that start by Dakota DeMay, and then just got freight train on the low side by Houston, Silva, and Russell. And then Justin Miller looked to take advantage of it as well. So Gomez, not the position he wanted to be in. He's going to have to fight a lot harder than he wanted to, especially now since he's got PDF and Nacho La Rosa behind him.
I'll keep in mind also that those teammates could have worked with each other on that start and timed it so that they both got runs. And I'm not saying that's dirty pool. I'm just saying that's what happens when you got a teammate that you guys are communicating and you're in the first couple of rows.
Exactly. That's exactly what you want to do. It may sound a bit cold and calculating to some, but it wins races for the team, and ultimately that's really what matters. Like if it's Dakota, if it's Matt, it's good for them. Like if they want, like they obviously want each other to be the winner in their own right, but you gotta help your team in some regard and give them 2 bullets in the gun to go for that win.
Right. Exactly. As you can hear, my voice is struggling. So tonight, folks, the best medicine that you can give me from home would be lots of these thumbs up. We would really appreciate that. We are closing in on 1,000 subscribers, so the next best thing you can do for me is hit the subscribe button and ring the bell. And if you're feeling super generous, and you could open up your purse strings any, is donate to the program here, and that will definitely help any ailment to feel better. But it is me on a half a voice, if best, and you're gonna be hearing lots of Steven tonight.
Yeah.
So again,
I will say though, he's been an absolute trooper going through this.
So thumbs up, please, subscribe, and click the bell and donate if you can see to it. We're getting ready to go green, and I'm going to turn it back over to you so I can straighten my voice out.
Dakota DeMay once again leading the field to green. This time he's got his teammate behind him, so they'll be a bit more coordinated this time. I at least would hope so. As Dakota gets on the throttle there, he actually leaves Houston behind there. He kind of left him hanging. And now John Silva, as they go back to green, Silva is going to be trying to make a move there. As I look behind him, I believe that was PDF trying to look to the inside of Gomez. That was a bit of a risky lunge into turn 1. But behind him, here comes John Silva looking to the inside into turn 3. Side by side with Matt Houston. Houston working that high side. Can he get the run off the corner? You see this very often. No, Silva does get the run that he needs. And he moves up into P2, and he's going to bring Tyler Russell with him. And Houston now has a gap down low there, and Justin Miller is going to be tucking in behind. Russell now right up on the gearbox of John Silva, as I actually heard a little bit of a tap against the wall there. Meanwhile, PDF, I'm noticing behind them, this little train here, they're kind of broken away from Nacho LaRosa and company behind them. Sean Dunham actually leading that train there, as I'm seeing PDF running way up on the high side. But as they're slowly starting to catch back up here, they're still side by side now for P2. That's Silva and Russell now going for it. Look at this right here.
Comes Justin Miller into the picture.
Justin Miller making his voice known. And Silva does clear Russell once more into turn one. Russell now going to be looking for any line he can, as PDF looks to the inside of Pedro Gomez for sixth. Still side by side through 3 and 4. That battle still back on for P2. Russell, does he get the advantage at the line here? Not quite, but it's incredibly close. 3/1000ths of a second close for Russell and Silva. But now Justin Miller is going to make it a party of 3. And Dakota DeMade just kind of running his line right now. He seems to be enjoying life up front.
Clean air.
Clean air is always going to be an advantage, it would seem. Russell now, as Silva's closing right back up on the gearbox of Dakota DeMade. If Dakota can just hug that low line, that seems to be his game plan for the time being, especially this early on in the race, where it's expected that tire wear is not the biggest of concerns, as Miller looks to and takes a peek to the inside of Russell as they start to get a bit dicey. And meanwhile, behind, look at Sean Dunham on the move ahead of PDF.
3 wide, coming off a 4 there.
Indeed, Dunham down on the low side. And this time he's going to make a move on Matt Houston. Houston already suffering a bit of a problem there. Like he was definitely freight trained after that restart there. And it's just going from bad to worse position-wise right now for the boss man.
Here comes Mark Murphy right around Matt Houston here.
Murphy up 1 position from where he started, now looking side by side with Matt Houston. And these positions are, of course, going to be crucial in an SOF this big. This is going to be crucial for the Division 1 championship title between Mark Murphy and the absentee Adriano Pinero. And move Murphy up to P8. Just picking off these spots one at a time. We're working lap 13. We still got time to work with here. Pit stop window, we're expecting around 50 laps is the usual for the 1.5-mile tracks here. So 50 laps, maybe around lap 25, we'd expect the pit window to open in earnest.
Another 12 laps or so, we might see that pit window open.
And meanwhile, I'm seeing Russell starting to creep back up on the, trying to look to the high side of Dakota DeMade, but that's leaving the door open on the low side for John Silva. And now they're kind of trying to work the, trying to play a little bit of a snake game, it would seem. And they're trying to throw each other out of the draft, but at the same time, maybe even give them a bit of aero push. It seems to be right on that fine line between aero push heavy driving or draft heavy driving, it would seem. As Russell, again, leaving that door open on the low side, trying to get out of Dakota DeMade's aero wash. But it's leaving Silva with an opportunity if he can indeed exploit it with the grip he has. And looking once more at Pedro Gomez, who started second, fell back early on. He's starting to pick up spots. He's just gotten around Justin Miller and starting to put the pressure on Silva for third place. And looking a little bit further behind, taking a little bit of attention away from the lead battle for 10th place, 11th I should say, Nacho LaRosa and Stephen Lee went side by side there through 1 and 2. LaRosa down a couple of spots from where he started, Lee up a couple of spots. So Lee definitely looking to put the pressure on someone who seems to be on a little bit of a struggle so far. Not what we expect from a guy who, like Nacho LaRosa, Nacho LDR, he used to be known on iRacing. But he is very talented driver, of course, maybe a bit of aggressive racer, I would think. And it seems like it's not quite, something's not quite working quite well for him.
Still early in this race here, though. Plenty of time.
It is still early days indeed, very true. And this lead battle once more as Silva once again takes a peek to the inside of Russell. And I'm seeing Gomez getting passed once more by Justin Miller. for 4th position. These guys are starting to get themselves in a bit of a line here, and we're getting close to the point where it was suggested by Tyler Russell earlier on. Lap 30 was about the threshold that he suggested in chat, that the tire wear started to become more and more of a concern. We may well see that come to pass. And where we said before the track temp started at green flag was about 112, it's 115 now. That track temp is only getting hotter and hotter, so that does seem like a warranted concern.
Yeah, it was a noon start.
Yep, right at midday, and that's right where the track starts to bake the most in the early afternoon. And of course, we're in Texas, so that doesn't help. Caution out once more.
Matsuda.
Hayato Matsuda in trouble. Stopped there at the entrance to turn number 3. He was there on the apron. And looks to me, he was in a battle a little bit further down, and just at the back end of the top 20. Oh, he clips the wall on his own in the aero wash of the car in front, who I believe that was Matthew Mercer in front. And Matsuda just clips the wall. Right front suspension is gone, and that will send him into the wall.
It's wow, you're right there on the edge of this window.
It is right there. Of course, the drivers can save fuel, and pretty much all the leaders are making their way onto pit road. Dakota DeMay, Tyler Russell, John Silva, Justin Miller, Pedro Gomez, your top 5 right now. Russell creeping up a little bit, right on the edge of what the pit road speed limit will allow. Maybe a little bit of overspeed for a fraction of a second and for a couple of seconds perhaps, but then you got to get back down there.
Oh, and he beats him out.
Ooh, that was a bad stop for Dakota DeMay. He lost 2 positions. And that was John Silva and Tyler Russell getting by him. So Russell, your new race leader off of pit road.
Russell 7.8 in the box. Silva 8.8 flat in the box. Dakota 8.8 in the box. So Dakota in a second longer than Russell and 0.8 longer than Silva, and that is your difference.
That's all it takes. It's even less than that can lose you a spot. That's just how fast these pit stops are and how crucial they are. But move Tyler Russell's number 12 up to the race lead. Started this race in 5th. And one driver who actually has not pitted, in fact, Stephen Lee has not pitted. So that number 11 assumes the race lead on the track, but of course Lee has not pitted yet.
So right now it looks like we're going to be right at a fuel mileage race, give or take, really, at the end here. That's how close it's going to be.
No doubt about that. I'm sure a lot of these, pretty much all these guys are going to be running in map 8. The maps and the fuel map setting that you run when we're under caution, it burns the least amount of fuel possible. You don't need to go anywhere fast. So that's why that is there. It's just there to save fuel under yellow, and that's what these guys are going to be doing. Maybe even clutching and coasting a little bit, doing every little bit they can to help their fuel mileage. And if done properly, I think they can definitely make it. It's going to be within that threshold. Maybe even a little bit of fuel saving as the run goes, but a little bit of saving now is worth a lot more than taking a late pit stop later, which for the time being seems to be Stephen Lee's game plan right now. Probably just it's really odd in many ways, especially with as late in the race as this is, because Lee definitely needs to come in again.
Yeah, and definitely in a tire situation, but he might be banking on some cautions to breed cautions here. So we're getting ready to go green. Lights are out on the pace car.
Could very well be true. Of course, that old adage that cautions breed cautions. It's more true than a lot of people will admit. We've had 2 yellows thus far. Of course, a lot of drivers have been rather aggressive so far. The racing package seems to have allowed for it. Stephen Lee will be leading them to green on worn tires. And we'll see how well they hold against the fresh rubber of Russell, Silva, DeMay, Miller, Pablo Diaz-Francis, Sean Dunham, Pedro Gomez, Mark Murphy, and Trey Shadid will be your top 10 coming to green. And it'll be lap 25, right on the nose of that magic fuel mileage number I was talking about. And I think, considering everything, if there's a little bit of fuel saving going on, I think they could probably make it. And waiting once more on the pace car, peeling off. Lee hanging way back there. Kind of a false start there, it would seem, right there from Lee. Now he gets on the throttle, and Russell caught a little bit napping right there behind Lee, and that's going to bring John Silva and Dakota DeMay up into the fight there, as meanwhile behind them, Miller and PDF starting to tussle right now for P5, but it is going to be Lee that leads away. PDF way down on the low side there, trying to make a move on Miller. Not quite enough, though. I think he lost a lot of momentum there. But coming off of 4,
Tyler.
Here comes Russell, looking to the outside now, going into 1. Will Russell have the grip to make it work? Ooh, close, and almost 3 wide running behind them as Dakota DeMay starts to get swept up in the field, but it is going to be Russell that clears Stephen Lee around the outside. Beautifully done. And John Silva looking to follow suit, and he does so. So Lee seems to really be struggling on those tires so far. So Lee now tucking into the draft there in P3. And here comes more of the fresh tire runners. Here comes PDF. PDF worked his way around a few of them. He's gotten himself to the inside of Stephen Lee, and that's going to be P3 for him, I would wager. Man, Stephen Lee already I can see struggling up on that high line to maintain position as Miller goes by them, and now Dakota DeMay goes by him. And speaking of Dakota DeMay, that was a rough start in its own right.
Yeah, I think Lee is playing track position here. He's losing a lot of it, but he was stuck in the mid-pack before. Now he's up at the front.
Lee almost getting rear-ended there by Pedro Gomez, and now he looks to the now Gomez goes to the inside through the quad oval. Sean Dunham now to the low side, and now Stephen Lee is just getting freight train at this point. The tires seem to really seems to be at the point where tire degradation and tire age is a deciding factor at this point, and Stephen Lee is the guinea pig to prove the point, it would seem. But now I'm looking at Tyler Russell and John Silva looking to go side by side once more for the race lead, and PDF now looking to close the gap here. Russell defending down low. Silva not quite enough there. That low line in clean air, it still seems to be enough to hold on to that track position. Anywhere else, you're pretty much liable to lose position if you make one false move. But if you just hold the bottom line here down the back straightaway for while you're in the race lead, it seems like it's a strong defensive position.
The old IRL line, as it's called.
Indeed, and it's where you saw, I mean, it's very fitting. The IRL would run down there. That was indeed the fastest line, except later on in the race where you're relying on momentum off of turn number 4 to get that lunge at the line. And let's not forget the undisputed king of that, Sam Hornish Jr.
Yep.
In fact, he did that quite a few times here at Texas Motor Speedway against the likes of Elio Castroneves and Scott Dixon and company. But now Tyler Russell holding on to that low side there, and this is the sort of stuff you saw back in the IRL days where like, yes, you want to get positions whenever you can, but it's still not quite late enough in the running to warrant being hyper-aggressive. Caution's out again. Trying to find the cause of it.
Oh, Guillermo Prequel.
Guillermo Parkel and slow there. It looks like he lost it in... whoa, actually, this was a very strange incident there. He's alongside Stephen Lee. He gets loose off of turn 4, clips the grass, goes all the way through the infield grass, down pit road, easily got a penalty there through iRacing system, and then loses it on the apron, back up the track and into the turn 2 wall. Parkel, though, not major suspension damage there. Actually, yes, there is. There is a meatball flag for Parkel, so he will have to come on the pit road. Crazy incident there for Parkel.
Yeah,
amazing the fact that he didn't collect another car in the process. Well done to him, and well done for everyone to notice that. And Stephen Lee, I'm seeing, is now on pit road. So he's finally getting his stop behind him. Cesar Cabral
but he's
also
good to
on
go to
pit
the
road.
end, though. He's good to go to the end. Cabral's good to go to the end as well.
Yep. And this caution, the downside, of course, to that is that this caution definitely helps the front runners as well, saving fuel. So with this extra caution, I think they are definitely able to make it to the end of this race. I definitely think they'll be able to make it. The question mark I would have at this point is the fact that Stephen Lee now has the freshest tires amongst everyone in the field. Maybe that little bit extra, and that little bit extra grip, maybe that could be worth something. We'll see how it goes.
Yeah, this is the birthplace of IndyCar pack racing. Not quite seen back in its first race in '97, but in later races. My first memory of a very close finish here was Robbie McGee and Scott Sharp in a very close finish, and that kind of launched IndyCar pack racing at these 1.5 mile tracks. And of course, that has since changed. Aero packages and the number of tracks on the schedule have dropped off and whatnot, but this is pretty much the birthplace of IndyCar pack racing.
Indeed, and of course a lot of the 1.5 mile tracks had this as well. Chicagoland Speedway, probably one of the more notable examples, even as well as TMS. Of course, Chicagoland holds the distinction of having the closest finish in IndyCar Series history between Sam Hornish Jr. and Al Unser Jr. in 2002.
Yeah, 4 of the top 10, and the top 2 in the top 10 there are all Chicagoland. That's how close that place is.
Yep, and at least a few, and 2 of them also featured Sam Hornish. And of course, when I was starting to follow IndyCar racing in the late 2000s, I remember one of the first races I was watching through to the end was, aside from the Indy 500, was Chicagoland in 2009, where Ryan Briscoe just edged out Scott Dixon right at the line for the 4th closest finish in series history up to that time.
Yeah, Scott Dixon seemed to be on the losing side on a lot of those close finishes. He'd be a lot closer to A.J. Foyt's 67 wins if he won them all.
Oh, yeah. I mean, it doesn't seem to have hurt him too much, given what we know now.
No.
Certainly has not. And the same can be true for Will Power when it comes to pole positions, it seems, as well. He's just equal Mario Andretti's pole records.
Yeah, I think you should not underestimate and undervalue Will Power's accomplishments to IndyCar racing. I think that when he retires, he will go down as one of the best.
It's certainly shaping up that way. Both him and Scott Dixon, we live in an age of new legends. And let's see if we can see some legendary moves be made in this race here in the virtual world. Tyler Russell leading a few heavy hitters here tonight. And he gets on the throttle, leaves John Silva behind now. Will Silva suffer the same fate as Dakota DeMay did earlier on tonight? He's got PDF behind him, but now PDF is under pressure right now from Justin Miller for P3 as they head into 1 and 2. And they've broken away right now, but I would imagine that these guys, including Dakota DeMay, who's sitting back there in 5th place all by his lonesome, he's not going to be too long to catch up to these guys. Tyler Russell holding that low line as we expect. Silva up on the top side. PDF down low. Still side by side through 1 and 2. Silva trying to hold that top line there. He lost a bit of momentum. PDF has the run into turn 3, and he does indeed clear him. This is kind of the stuff we saw before. That low side has an edge even in draft traffic. But PDF now has that same problem. He's going to look to the high side now, and Justin Miller's looking to go with him. He actually cleared John Silva. PDF, how aggressive will he be early on lap 40? It'll be 35 to go at the stripes, side by side through 3 and 4. And not quite enough, though. PDF is going to have to find a gap somewhere if he wants to make a move work. Justin Miller, the interested spectator, it would seem, for the time being, in Dakota DeMade. Looking on that high side, he wants to join in this party, too. And he's bringing Pedro Gomez and Sean Dunham up with him.
These in-car shots just show you how much these cars are dancing around.
Yeah, they look, they may look serene in some regards, and they may look like they're completely in the hands of the drivers, like it's obeying the driver's every whim. But that is not the case. They are at the mercy of the track as much as they are the driver. PDF kind of stuck between a Russell and a hard pack behind him. But it's definitely going to be a tough fight here, especially since John Silva is looking to pay him back for that pass on the low side there. And with PDF basically forced up onto that high line there, Silva is going to be aching to make something happen there when PDF gets that run, because I'm sure he'd pick up on the fact that he's going to lose momentum when he does that. And we'll probably see it happen again here in 1 and 2, as Silva now has a peak down low. Not quite enough to get up alongside him, though.
He tried. He sure tried. Oh, PDF was thinking about going down low and then a backstretch there to try to get the pass in the 3.
That would be hairy, but I wouldn't put it past him trying to make something work there. For Russell right now, do not give up the bottom of that racetrack. Whoa, Silva almost gets run over by Sean Dunham, and Dunham's now got Gomez, and now Miller's making it 3 wide off of turn 2.
Oh, there he goes. No.
PDF had a look down low, but this 3-wide battle here is starting to clear up there, and Sean Dunham is the ultimate winner of it. He stays ahead of both Miller and Gomez as they go side by side behind him for 5th place.
He's leaving that bottom open.
He is leaving a gap open, though. The question there is, does PDF see it as a viable one? But of course, I believe it was the great Ayrton Senna who said, "If you don't go for a gap that exists, you're no longer a racing driver." Of course, he may have a bit of a contentious reputation among some, but I'm looking behind them, Justin Miller. Miller having a peek down low in that battle with Gomez. That's the battle for 5th position there. Miller does clear him, and Gomez has opened the door for Dakota DeMay, getting forced up on that high line there by Miller. Ooh, very close stuff there. And once again, PDF having a look for that race lead. This is definitely not going to be ending anytime soon, I think. Even with the track temp going up, it's 117 degrees Fahrenheit right now. So 10 degrees, so 7 degrees hotter than when we started this race. And PDF now, he has a gap, he sees it, has a peak down low. He's going to be there, side by side into turn 3.
He was setting them up.
Opportunistic move, and he does get it. PDF to the race lead. Beautifully done. The move we expected to see, and Russell was either not prepared for it or shocked that he actually took what he thought was not a gap that was anyway viable. But now Russell can be looking to that high side, the same position PDF was. Can he return the favor? And John Silva now, once again, watching and waiting for his chance, either to move up to P2 or take the lead for himself. But of course, he's got to worry about the gaggle of cars behind him as Russell now works that top side in turn 3. 25 laps to go, be 24 laps to go at the stripe at Texas. Silva still holding on there. Pack starting to get spread out a little bit here. Gomez now trying to catch up to Justin Miller, starting the little bit of a spread out train here. It's still not quite what we would see on a lot of other mile-and-a-half tracks where basically everybody is trying to find whatever clean air they can. That may be the case to some, but they're not going all the way up to the top side of the track to do it. So it seems like there is some grip available to these guys. The question to me would be, how long will it last?
Real quickly, I just want to show this before we get too far into this race. This is the code for this week's 4D RACEWEAR 10% off. If you make a purchase from 4DRacewear.com, MNF Texas 10, MNF Texas 10. That'll get you 10% off your next purchase at 4DRacewear.com.
And once again, still holding steady in the top 3 there, but now Justin Miller under threat from Pedro Gomez and Sean Dunham. This is the battle for 4th place, sitting right behind the race leaders. Although they do seem like they are catching up a little bit there. Miller is starting to creep himself back into the frame. We're working
sweet.
20 laps to go. Oh, here comes Russell looking a peek to the low side. Does he get his nose in it?
He got his nose chopped off. Wow.
What a chop there from PDF. Wow, Russell seems definitely eager to repay PDF for the move he made earlier.
Well, I'm going to tell you, the next time he gets his nose down there, he's going to turn him. If I got my nose down there, I would not budge the next time either.
Probably not, but maybe not necessary this time, as Russell now getting a run on the high side here.
There's no side draft here, guys.
Yeah, this isn't stock car racing, fellas. Russell trying everything he can. PDF on the radio doesn't seem to be entirely happy with the kind of driving he's seeing out of that number 12 machine.
Well,
but Russell,
I think a little pot calling the kettle black. We know Pablo Diaz-Vance is a pretty aggressive driver. We've seen documented instances with him and other drivers before, so it'll be real interesting to see how he can handle an equally as aggressive driver. And this time the shoe's on the other foot, so let's see how this works out. Right now he seems to be handling himself pretty good.
Yeah, you never like it when you're the one on the receiving end of it. Let's just say that. Even if you're the most aggressive driver out there, that double standard always crops up because you never like it when it's you.
Yeah, and you got to watch out for netcode. You really do, because you got PDF, who is with Iberia, so that's across the pond there, and he's coming to a U.S. server. There could be netcode instances, so we'll watch that.
Traffic in the way here. I believe that's Alan Morea in the number 18.
Yep. And he just goes to the apron and gets out of everyone. Yeah, he just gets out of everyone's way, so it's good for him. Sorry.
Mark called there by Morea. Almost left the door open, and I think Russell saw that as an opportunity perhaps, but PDF still holding on to that lead, defending down low. Russell trying to work that top side once again here. I think the momentum is getting a little bit better, but I don't think it's going to be enough that the high line is going to be the supreme line here as this run goes on. Even with the track temp getting hotter, it's 119 now. We're nearly a full 10 degrees hotter right now. It's baking, or it's like baking hot right now. And speaking of drivers who don't like it when it's them, Mark Murphy seems to be a little bit disgruntled with Adriano Fraporti in front of him in that battle for 9th place. Murphy doesn't seem to be really happy with something on the radio. It may have been Fraporti, it may have been someone else. But a 10th place result right now, it could be decent points, but I know this is definitely not what he would want, being only 11 points back in the championship hunt. But of course, with as big a turnout as this is, it could still be enough that it could help the situation. But if not, he will have to come back later in the week to see if indeed he can leapfrog the absent Adriano Pinero for that championship lead going into the season finale at Kansas Speedway. But PDF once again holding that low line for the race lead. Silva and Russell staying pretty close behind them. Russell not quite close enough this time. Maybe the grip's starting to wear down a little bit, or Russell had a bit of a loss of momentum here, but I don't think Russell's going to give in that easily with 10 laps to go. Russell now looking down low. PDF leaving a bit of a gap open there on the low side there. Maybe even he's starting to get a feel for how the tires are working. Russell now gets the run back. He's looking on the high side in 1 and 2. The question here is, and indeed Mark Murphy once again just point blank said to Adriano Proporti, don't do that again. Murphy is not happy with the number 9, especially since looking back at it, Proporti actually chopped off Murphy's nose the same way that PDF chopped Russell's nose earlier.
Well, makes me want to watch that battle a little bit there too.
Indeed, it's getting a little bit spicy back here in this battle for 9th. Proporti trying to hold on to that position over Mark Murphy. Murphy qualified 10th. He's running 10th with a few laps to go in this race, and I know that Murphy wants to gain these spots here, and maybe just to show that Murphy that no crime against me will go unpunished. Of course, knowing Murphy I wouldn't say is a vindictive kind of guy. He's generally a really cool driver from the times we talked to him. But when you annoy the driver who's the cool, calm, collected type, you know that you're kind of driving like you're driving like you're working.
It's like back in the day in the USAC days, if you pissed off Allenser Sr., you know you really pissed someone off.
Yeah, or as Jeff Gordon once said, it takes a lot to make me mad, but I'm pissed right now. Excuse my French.
Well, it looks like the battle for the lead has kind of settled down here with 6 to go. I'm wondering maybe if Russell let his tires burn up.
That could well be the case with the hot as the track temp is getting. It's actually gotten a bit cooler now. We may have just gotten over the temperature high here. But it could well be that Russell definitely seemed to have burned his tires out. He was definitely working really hard, both trying to hold off PDF and then trying to get back by him when PDF got by him. And John Silva now seems to be his biggest threat from behind. It's getting close.
I think we had Sean Dunham kiss the wall on corner exit. Either Sean Dunham or Pedro Gomes on corner exit of 2 there.
Gomes is... Oh, here comes Dunham looking to the inside here into turn 1. Can Dunham get by him? This is for 5th place, and yes, he does. Pedro Gomes seems to be struggling there later on in this race. Nearly caught the wall there last lap. But let's see if he can gather himself back up. It'll be 3 laps to go at Texas. PDF now up to a 1-second lead over Russell. And he in turn has a half-second lead back to John Silva. Things starting to get themselves spread out here. And PDF seems to have made the move when it mattered the most, on his way to a win. As we're looking further back through the field, we'll see if Murphy does indeed close up on Proporti, but he's actually got Matthew Mercer to contend with behind him with 2 laps to go. And any position you have in this race especially, this is going to be crucial for the championship fight. Can Murphy indeed score the points he needs going into Kansas Speedway? He's made great progress over the last few weeks. Him and Trace Shadid have been working spectacularly well over the last little while, but we'll see if this week will be a feast or a famine, but either in this race and as the week goes on. But white flag in the air in 3 and 4. PDF made the move when it mattered the most. Pablo Diaz-Francis wins at Texas Motor Speedway. Tyler Russell in P2 after a great fight all race long. John Silva will come home third. Justin Miller and Sean Dunham will be your top 5 in the Lone Star State.
And if you wouldn't mind, I'd be thrilled if you could read the night's final results.
Indeed, give your voice a rest there. We're hoping you feel better for the next week at Kansas, but as PDF comes to the line, of course, you don't need the motor, you don't need the tires anyway. Burn it down, buddy. And John Silva will be joining him as well on the final step on the podium. But it's going to be Pablo Diaz-Francis winning over Tyler Russell, John Silva, Justin Miller in 4th, Sean Dunham 5th, Pedro Gomes in 6th, Trey Shadid from 11th to 7th, pole sitter Dakota DeMade, not the night he wanted, he will finish 8th, still a top 10 result. Porporty in 9th, and Mark Murphy in the top 10. We'll see if those points will be beneficial to him going forward. And then going through it, Mercer, P11, Rafael David, P12, a quiet night for him, but very effective one. Same for Seb Alexander, started 21st, he'll finish 13th. Nacho LaRosa, kind of on the opposite end of the spectrum, started 8th, he'll finish 14th on the night. DL Lemon from dead last in 26th to 15th.
Good job.
11 spots gained for DL Lemon, well done to him. Matt Houston from P3 to P16. A rough night for the boss man there. Cesar Cabral only qualified 17th. He finishes 17th. Not the result I'm sure he wanted, but still maybe consistency on qualifying in the race there, sadly. Frank Irwin Jr., 19th. Frank Irwin Jr. will be 19th. Stephen Lee, 2 laps down in 19th place. And Jeff Murray will round out your top 20. And then after him, Murray was the first of the drivers to DNF this race. Brian Spots, Alan Morea, Alex Onregon, Guillermo Parkel, Hayato Matsuda, and Logan Powers round out your 26 finisher, your 26 cars here tonight at Texas Motor Speedway. And well done to Pablo Diaz-Francis. Timed it just right. Good racing all night. And having a look, not seeing anyone showing up quite yet in the interview room here. And I'm seeing, I will say though, I'm seeing PDF, it seems like PDF and Tyler, they seem to be making amends with each other, thankfully. It doesn't seem like any hard feelings. They realize it's just hard racing between 2 hard chargers. Well done to both of them. You love to see good racing, and you love to see good sportsmanship afterwards, but I am not seeing many people pop in for interviews, sadly.
Okay.
Which would be a shame, because I would have loved to get both Francis and Russell in this one.
Well, let's take a look here. No one really stepping in. That's fine. My voice can't go much longer than when we already have it, but still a good victory here for Pablo Diaz-Francis. He set up that pass, finally been able to get alongside, execute it, gets the win, was able to defend against Tyler Russell for the remainder of the way until the tires kind of wore off to get the victory. So a great victory for Pablo Diaz-Francis, PDF, and for the Necky Racing team. So next week we now go to Championship Monday, and hopefully I will have a championship voice and then too. But we are going to Kansas Speedway, which we might see a little bit more of the same that we just saw today going on at Kansas next week.
Very much so. Kansas Speedway, another 1.5 miles, of course. It's going to be, and historically Kansas Speedway, just like Texas, is even more so noted for very close racing in the Indy cars, both in real life and in the virtual world, especially in the virtual world. Of course, it was no stranger to close finishes in real life when the IndyCar Series raced there. So I'm expecting, if this is any indication of what the packages are going to be like, I think Kansas is going to be a great championship weekend just outside of Kansas City. And it'd be a great place to celebrate with some barbecue, I would think.
There we go. Let's get Pablo Diaz-France's car here on the screen for us. All right, well, that is it. We now have a championship to decide next Monday night. And for the sake of my voice, we will do a very abbreviated exit here. But one of these things you don't really plan on happening, but it happens.
Indeed, but we're thankful you all could join us here tonight. It's been a fantastic. It was another fantastic running so far. And then of course, Championship Monday, and I think it'll be a great way to end this season of the 4D RACEWEAR Indy Fixed Top Split. We'll catch you next time at Kansas Speedway. Catch you next time.
So for Stephen Larkamp, everyone at Raceverse, I'm Gary Gotso, saying all good night. Thanks for watching, and to all the men and women serving in the military and as first responders, Godspeed, God bless, and come home safe. Catch us again next week at Legacy, or actually not Legacy, Texas, but actually Kansas Speedway for Championship Monday of the next race of the 4D RACEWEAR Monday Night Indy Fixed Top Split. Good night, everybody.